Right, I think we'll start. Share my screen. All right. And, can you guys see my screen? Just give me a thumbs up, and we can go ahead. Perfect. All right. So just a quick introduction as well. Hi everyone, thanks for joining. So my name is Brian. I'm the CEO and co-founder of FutureLab. We help companies launch mentoring programs and also scale them. So in quick context, we have helped around 60 plus different companies run mentoring programs. We've engaged around 4,000 mentors, conducted over, I think it's closer to 80,000 mentoring sessions by now. And we are also one of the best edtech companies in Southeast Asia for workforce learning, specifically in mentorship. So we're very specialized in mentorship. So if you do have any questions that you guys are thinking about, feel free to type in the chat. As we go through it, I will stop and I will answer it for you guys as we go along. All right. So we've been running FutureLab for around 9 years. So we've been mainly doing programs across Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei. So we've worked with large corporations, universities, and as well as government agencies in a number of things. So we do provide mentor training as well. So we also help companies develop mentors to then launch internally. We also provide external mentors like Johnson that are innovation consultants or subject matter experts that the company might want access to. And we also help organizations that already have mentoring programs scale up. So like for Moranti, we help them do around like a few thousand sessions a year as well for their entrepreneurship programs. So I'll start with the basics. So what is mentorship? Essentially, the way that we look at mentoring is you're building relationships, right? Relationships within the organization, relationships between an experienced employee and a less experienced employee. And generally, they tend to be, management versus new joiners or executives in the company. And what mentors should be doing is sharing their experience and their knowledge and providing guidance for these less experienced mentees or employees. And generally, it is a two-way process. Mentors do gain from it as well. They develop leadership skills, but they also get insights in terms of what these juniors are facing on a day-to-day basis. That gives you a bit more empathy in terms of how to manage them as you hold a leadership role within the organization. And I think for most companies that we speak to, they face three main challenges, right? One is the high workforce mobility, specifically with the younger generation. We also are reaching a place where we have an aging talent pool, which means that a lot of the senior leaders are starting to retire. And also with, the digitalization after the pandemic, as well as AI, industries are changing rapidly as well. And if we look in the next 5 to 10 years, we're not exactly sure how AI will affect the jobs, right? A lot of companies now also like right sizing due to technology and like optimizing their workflows. So I think the next few years is going to be very interesting in terms of like how the companies evolve as well, right? And we believe that to retain talent and replace these leaders that are retiring, companies need an agile, cost-effective way that goes beyond your typical training sessions. So this is why we believe in mentorship is an important tool or component in the workforce for talent development. Specifically, mentorship has been shown to increase retention engagement, especially for the younger generation, right? Where they switch jobs faster if they don't feel that they are growing within the organization. And also, mentorship can provide them guidance and building relationships with these younger generation, which means that they feel that they're invested in. Another characteristic of the younger workforce as well is that they do want to have leadership opportunities. So mentorship can be a very powerful tool in building your leadership pipeline. So they might not be ready yet, but definitely mentorship is a way of accelerating the readiness by passing on this real world knowledge from experienced leaders within the organization as well. And the last 2 points is workforce agility. As I mentioned, that how industries are changing so rapidly, organizations nowadays also need to adapt very quickly, right? So in terms of how do we get the organization to adapt with the changes, sometimes formal training can be very slow and also very theoretical. So mentorship can really provide a practical way of transferring knowledge directly from a senior to a junior that they can use straight away. And because mentorship can be a lot more frequent than training, and also it can be almost essentially free, you can definitely transform your organization way faster by getting people to share information or share knowledge through the career to the juniors, right? And another thing about retention as well. So it's not only just people retention, right? It's also knowledge retention. So as these senior leaders are also retiring, or people are leaving, you lose that knowledge. And that knowledge is very valuable because it's not necessarily knowledge you can get anywhere. It is from the years of experience doing this specific skill set or really understanding the industry in a way that you can't really learn online. You can't really learn from any manual. It is this pure, you have to live it, you learn, then you have to can you pass that on? So for us, mentorship is going to play a key role in how do these senior employees that are retiring or moving on share that institutional knowledge to the next generation. And I think mentorship plays a very key role in this. So in mentorship, if you look at any organization like a triangle, right, where there's different stages in the organization, mentorship is a very powerful tool at each different stages. For example, entry level mentoring programs can be implemented for new joiners or management training programs. This really helps them build a strong foundation in terms of onboarding them into the company, learning about the culture, and for fresh grads, it really helps them accelerate uh, their onboarding into how the company works, right? For junior and middle management, generally it's programs for new managers and high potentials. And this is where you're starting to develop your future leader pipeline, where a mentorship can be used to really help first-time managers develop leadership skills. Because, I mean, in the workforce, not necessarily as you get promoted, you know how to manage people, right? This is something that you have to learn as you do. Because generally, when you're entry level, you get promoted based on skill sets. But once you become middle management, it really is about how do you manage the team. That's the only way you can move up. As well for high performers, this is also where they can be identified and put through a special track to accelerate the development to leadership roles. Also, if I'm speaking too fast, just let me know. I tend to speak quite quick, but if you guys are okay, I'll just continue. And lastly, for senior managers, generally, it's mostly succession planning. And something that we have also noticed recently is something called like entrepreneurship. So essentially, this is the programs for succession planning, right? So how do we support senior leaders going to real leadership roles within an organization, but also giving them the ability to drive innovation and drive new business growth within the company. We've noticed this with like really big organizations where they are looking to innovate new business solutions or new opportunities utilizing their existing database. These kind of programs are very interesting because they actually bring in external entrepreneurs as the mentor to really teach that innovation mindset. And it's a way for these senior managers to start thinking about how can they grow the business, because at some point they will be able to make this kind of decisions, or as a group, they're able to drive the direction of the company. Yeah. So one more thing as well, if you look at this pyramid, actually mentorship is cost effective because you can use it. For example, your new managers can be mentoring the entry level, senior managers can be mentoring junior middle management. Of course, you have top leadership mentoring senior managers. So again, what we're building here is how can we get knowledge to flow through the entire organization, right, in a structured way. And by doing this, you're essentially building a learning culture, a knowledge sharing culture, making the company a lot more robust in terms of, if these people leave, generally there's a few people that would know how it works, this thing works, or how to do a specific thing as well. So I did notice that some of you guys are looking at building your own mentoring program as well. So I thought I would go through, common mistakes that we see when launching a program. And we also know that a lot of organizations uh, do have some sort of informal career counseling, career coaching, career mentoring programs, but it's not formalized. And I think when I look at some of your questions in when you guys signed up, I think some of you guys mentioned that how do you make it sustainable? How do you like, when people leave, how does the program continue running? So I will go into that as well. But let's just start with a lot of the times when people launch programs, there is no clear learning outcome in terms of what is this program for, right? Um, when I was working in Accenture as well, I think I also had a career counselor, but generally the career counselor was my direct manager to help me get promoted within Accenture. But generally, most companies have some sort of format where it's more for like promotions. And generally, uh, the mentor or the counselor in this case is your direct boss or your boss's boss, which is really very awkward, especially if you have troubles within the team, right? How safe do you feel to share like the problems you have? And that could also be one of the reasons why a lot of young like typos might not have that ability to share what they're struggling with in a safe space, right? So I'll go into terms of like how you design your program after this. But generally, when you launch a program, are you either building a program for retention, leadership development, or like skill development? Generally, you have these few main objectives, right? The second thing as well is lack of training for mentors. So mentorship is interesting because generally most people, anyone can be a mentor, right? It just depends who you're mentoring. So as long as you have more experience than that person, generally you can be a mentor. But the problem is that um, people have a lot of information, and generally, like mentoring sessions become like a brain dump. Like the mentor generally just dumps everything they can onto the mentee without really understanding, the mentee's point of view or just thinking about how should I say this to them in a way that they can take action and we can track it and we can build some sort of learning journey for them as a mentor, right? So I think a lot of mentors or informal mentors, they don't know this. They just generally just share, um, what they're thinking about. Noise, right? Right. Second, the two other problems we notice is like this poor mentor-mentee match. Um, I've done this webinar, I think 2 times already, so this is my third time. So some of the participants are saying like some of the mentors are terrible in the organization and they don't know what to do with them. Um, so which is quite funny, but generally that's what every company is the same. Like you have this kind of situation. So I do feel like how do you track how successful the mentor-mentee is clicking? It's really important. Mainly because sometimes some of the programs you're running is maybe 6 to 18 months, right? And when you start the program, the first 2 sessions or first 3 mentoring sessions are very important because you will find out whether the mentor likes the mentee or the mentee likes the mentor. If one of them don't like each other, it's not going to work, right? It's going to be 6 months of like hardly talking. Uh, they're not really going to be engaged. If anything, it feels like you are you are having the opposite effect of what you're trying to do. You're probably going to chase them out of the company rather than retain them. So mentor matching is super important. But generally, if you find a good match, it's awesome because you build a friendship within organization. Right? And as for the mentee point of view, it's really useful because you have a friend or a mentor in a senior management level or a leadership position, which is great because you get to see a lot more in terms of like how the organization works. You can ask them a lot more things. And for the mentor point of view, you get to really understand what's happening on the ground, right? Like what's happening now, because they're no longer at that level. They're actually taking decisions for that level. So it's almost like they understand the challenges that the organization is facing, mainly because they are now speaking to people that are executing their plan. So it really builds a lot of empathy in terms of like what decisions am I making that these people have to implement, and like then they have a better sense of they can make better decisions at a higher position because they understand better, right? And welcome, Timok. We just started. I'll just continue. The last one I think is also not monitoring, and I think monitoring is definitely a pain, a real pain because depending how big your organization is, but generally anything more than 20 pairs is already very hard to monitor, right? And most of the time, you already have your own job, you're already doing your own training, you have your own KPIs and stuff. So mentorship becomes a very like, hey, we launched it, okay, just do it on your own, fill out the survey every 3 months or 6 months, whatever. But that's why it's again hard to sustain because essentially you don't have a system in place, right? And of course, we are FutureLab, we're an tech company, so there's no platform or technology you have in place to help you automate a lot of these things. And I feel that um, once you drop the ball, as for example, at a mentoring program, it's very hard to reverse it because you would have lost a lot of the motivation of a lot of the participants as well. And then it becomes hard to track your ROI, it becomes hard to justify to your higher ups whether it worked or not. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong there. So I think it's really important to have a plan. How are you going to monitor and track your program before you launch it so that it's easier for you, right? Because generally mentoring programs are quite long, 6 to 12 to 18 months. So having these things in place will really help you in running a program. So I'll just really go through, how we design programs on a high level. So we generally have 5 steps. The first one is really defining your objectives or KPIs. So the goal generally would be for a corporate would be either retention, leadership pipeline development, or skill transfer. Step 2, identify and setting your criteria for the mentors that should join, the mentees that are allowed to join as well. By setting that, it becomes you're setting the expectations, right? Hey, I'm picking you because you are a senior leader. This is to help us develop our leadership pipeline. We have, 5 or 6 potential successors for this role. We would like to mentor them, and from mentoring them, they see who is probably the best fitted to take this position. So mentorship again is also almost like it can be like a long interview process where you are developing them, but at the same time you're developing them, you also know who should really take a position later because they're the best or the most suited for them. The third thing you should look at as well is once you have selected your mentors and mentees, you want to start pairing them up. But you need to have a structured way of matching them as well. And matching just doesn't mean that, okay, person A speak to person B, C speak to person D. One thing you guys should do is something called like a compatibility check. So once you guys launch a program, you pair them up, make sure that you have a session, which is a get to know them session. And you need to manage the expectation saying that, hey, this is to get to know each other, set what is your goals, and see whether you guys would like to be paired for this 6 months, 12 months engagement, right? And it should also be shared that, hey, don't worry, if you don't like this person or like it doesn't work out, it's okay, we'll find a replacement, it's fine. Setting that up is really important because for mentoring programs, the start is the most important part. Once you launch it, the first couple of sessions is completed. If it goes well, generally, it will go very well all the way to the end because it's always like getting to know them, right? If you get to know them, you like them, generally it's quite a fun interaction because you now have a friend in the company that is a senior as a mentee, and as a mentor, oh, I have these young high posts that are probably really hungry that wants to learn from me. It also feels really good, right? So the relationship become a lot more organic. And what we've noticed over 6 to 12 months, generally they become friends. So uh, anytime they need to talk, they're happy to reach out. They have dinners, they might play sports together. Like they really build a very powerful relationship. And that's also part of the sustainability part. If you're not building like genuine relationships, then it's not sustainable, right? But if you're building relationships or like friendships within the organization, it's going to be really sustainable because even if they leave the company, they'll still be friends, right? So I think that's a key part to sustainability, the matching, right? Matching and building real relationships in the organization. Therefore, setting up structure and support. As I mentioned, I do suggest like provide training or basic training for mentors because they also don't know what to do, right? Yes, they can be very good at their job, but they're not really good at developing people. They might not be very good at developing people, but they could be really good at managing people, right? So mentor training is important just because as long as your mentors are solid, generally the mentors are the one that's going to be guiding the mentees throughout that development path or learning journey. Step four as well, definitely be setting up your tracking tools and milestones, right? You already know the objectives, you already know who your participants, you already matched them, they're great. Now you have to set the milestones in terms of like regular checkpoints, um, and a system for you to track after every session. I know it's definitely a bit tedious. I mean, it's definitely even troublesome for the mentor-mentee to do it, but generally, we do recommend mentoring sessions once every 6 weeks or once every 2 months. So it's not all the time you got to do it, but it's definitely important that you track it because if people start missing it, then you should step in and like, hey, what's going on? Um, is this a problem? If it's not a problem, maybe they're on holiday, sure, no problem, right? But you should definitely check if you start missing certain sessions. And lastly, again, at the end, you have to track uh, whether it's your retention rates, your promotion rates, your skill development gaps, and have an idea in terms of like how are you going to report it, right? Because what we do find with when we do work with our clients and stuff like, oh, it's super hard to track mentorship. It is and it isn't. It is just more about you plan it properly first. You launch it properly. You should be able to track it, right? Right. So maybe just in terms of, when I'm talked about mentor mentees, what maybe just for you guys as well in terms of like what is a good and what's not so good mentor. So generally when you match, they should have relevant experience. So a good mentor, this person wants to do this, the mentor has experience in it. Um, if you match them with a mentor with no relevant experience already, that's the most important. That's already no point joining them because it would be useless. It would be a waste of time for everyone. So let's just say you do have the right experience, right? Then it comes down to in terms, then it comes down in terms of like how you execute your sessions. So again, I do feel like a good mentor will make it easy for you to share your worries and thoughts. And I think, and a bad mentor will make you feel like you're being judged. And I feel like that's what happens for informal sessions where I get paired with my manager or my senior manager because that becomes really scary, right? As someone that is a junior that is struggling with certain things, maybe I'm a fresh grad, maybe I'm a management trainee, maybe I'm a young hypo, but I'm struggling with like just work, right? So I think that's why I do feel like sometimes it definitely doesn't make sense to have your mentor from your direct supervisor as your mentor because that's already a manager. You have someone else either within the same department but doesn't directly manage you, or you can do cross-department mentoring as well. And I'll share an example in terms of like how that can work later on. Third thing is mentors should really be spending more time listening to the mentee rather than just dominating the session. And I think with mentorship, generally people can talk, right? I think like most mentors can definitely talk a lot. The hard part is not about talking. The hard part is about like what to share, but also make sure you listen to the mentee and share the relevant things for the mentee. So I think that's where the training part comes in, right? Commitment level. Again, I think a good mentor uh, should be allocating time. And generally, when another struggle I think companies have as well is like, oh, how much time do they need to commit? Is it every week? No one has time to mentor every week, to be honest, right? Like essentially, it should be like within a year, maybe six, 7 times, once every 2 months, once a month, if they have a lot of time. But generally, the sessions don't even need to be that long. It can just be a 1 hour, right? So any commitment could be between 6 to 10 hours in the entire year, which is, I feel like completely fine if they're committed to it. But I also kind of walk you through in terms of like how do we train our mentors to conduct the sessions within an hour rather than spending 2-3 hours in the session. Then it becomes very hard to recruit mentors as well. And it's important for the mentors not to keep rescheduling. Yes, the mentee's job is to follow the mentor, chase the mentor for sessions, but generally if the mentor keeps canceling it, then that's a problem there as well. And in terms of a positive role model, so this is subjective. I think like what is positive role model? I feel like generally, you're there to help. You don't really talk badly about other people, no gossip. You're there to actually help someone develop professionally. As long as you're doing that, I think that's fine. So oh yeah. Do you guys have any questions so far? Or am I speaking at a okay pace? You guys okay? Thumbs up if you guys are good. Same says here. Great. See, good. All right. So, okay. So, as I mentioned to you guys earlier, right? Like sometimes, mentoring sessions can be very long. So then you might struggle to get like, or your your senior leaders to become mentors, right? They're very busy people. They go like, oh, I don't have time and stuff like that. So it's about making sure that you maximize the time that you are able to get. So let's say your managing director gives you 6 hours, you can really value those 6 hours and how do you utilize those 6 hours, right? So we do teach our mentors a general conversation flow, which they should be able to conduct in an hour. So whether that be a lunch break, you want to do a session, or after work, 1 hour free, you want to jump on, no problem. We also do online sessions. So let's say you're on home or working from home and you need to do a session. Like, how do you conduct it? So normally the first 10 minutes is like you just want to catch up with the person, right? Like, how are they? How's their weekend? How's their family? If you know them a lot better, you might ask, oh, how's your wife? How's your husband? How's your kids? Right? That's general, just to get to know to catch up what they've been up to. Second 20 minutes, it's understanding in terms of like what challenges are the mentees facing now, right? So like where are they, what they've been up to for work or for, you know, skill development, like based on what you talked to them before, just to understand where are they now, what they're struggling with, and what they're trying to do. So the next 10 minutes, essentially, this is where the mentor plays a role, right? From understanding in terms of like, okay, what they want to do, or I want to get promoted in 6 months, let's say or promotion cycles coming up, or I want to move to a different department in the company, you know, or I want to learn a specific skill. So essentially, you kind of understand where they are in terms of getting promoted, moving to a different department or whatever. Then from there, this is where the mentor plays a role, right? By understanding the context of the mentee, the mentor should be then defining, okay, all right, this is what I can suggest we can do, or this is what we can talk about. I think this is where you are. I think this is where you need to be in the next time we catch up. So essentially, the mentor now is setting up like targets for them, right, for the next session. So once they have the session, everyone's on the same page. The mentor goes like, great, all right, okay. So based on this conversation, let's try to, when we catch up in 6 weeks or when we catch up in 2 months, 1 month. Again, mentorship doesn't need to be so frequent because you actually need to do stuff before you have another session, right? So based on the timeline that they have set, whether it be like the catch up in 6 weeks, after Christmas, after whatever, like, okay, by this, you should be able to do A, B, C, D, or you have done A, B, C, D. So that's where the mentor can come in, and that's where we teach them how to help them set goals. So once they set the goals, the session ends, could be within an hour. And then when they catch up the next time, it comes back to this, right? How did it been the last 6 weeks? All right, the last time we spoke, we said we'll do A, B, C, D. Where are you now in A, B, C, D? I was able to do A, B. I was able to do C, D because I was da 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 da. Okay, let's go back and let's talk about C, D, right? And then let's go again. So essentially, that's how it goes. And once you have learned how to run it, it becomes pretty straightforward in terms of how to conduct these sessions. And both the mentor and mentee becomes familiar with it. It just becomes a lot more, um, it becomes a lot easier. One thing we also do is that we do get mentors and mentees to submit a reflection form I'll show you later how it looks like. So after every session, we do collect feedback like, oh, how did the session go? How it like based on the goal, we have some questions already designed so that every session they will also fill it up. This is how we track the progress. So we basically build a habit, right? So we build a habit, and this becomes it becomes a habit on how they're working towards their goal. All right, let's just like just adding him in. All right. Yeah. So for us, mentor training nowadays it's a must because you do work with a lot of young people, and I think leaders being able to mentors becomes very key in managing the millennials or the Gen Zs or Gen Alphas. So generally for us, we do mentor training just to share so that you guys have an idea in terms of like what mentor training would be like. So for basic level, we try to get mentors to understand what kind of mentor are they, right? Because everyone has a different personality, everyone has a different style, so everyone has a different way of mentoring. So this is where we analyze how they mentor, what they should do, what they shouldn't do, and then how to bridge that gap between seniors and juniors because of this generational gap. Because you might be working a lot of young people, right? Which value-wise could be very different to when you were an analyst, when you were an exec. Like your mind, you're just very different, right? Like you go like, hey, when I was your age, I just did whatever my boss said. So I think that's also really important, right? Understanding the values of the younger generation that you're likely going to mentor. Second part is really starting to understand a bit more about how do you mentor the individual. So the first one is really understanding about yourself as a mentor. The second part is understanding how do you identify the mentee's strengths, weaknesses, values, and goals, and really conducting that career conversation that I was sharing earlier. And how do you run it properly? And the last one is that is more advanced, is that if you start facing certain issues, so for example, we have mentees that have like mental, what's it called? There's some other like mental issues or like some other stress issues that is not really related to work, but it affects work. Like, how do you deal with these kind of like emotional challenges that is not so straightforward? Like, oh, no, I have this problem, this is how you do it, no problem. But actually, it could be like, oh, family, it could be some other kind of stress, it could be some other things as well that is affecting their performance. So this is where it's a bit more advanced. But generally, you do need to address those ones a bit more care in terms of how you go about doing that. And we do guide you in terms of like how to conduct those sessions. And our training is that for Malaysian companies, anyways, it's a HRD claimable. So if you do want to develop your leaders into mentors, happy to have a chat after the webinar. So impact trackers used for mentoring programs, just to give you guys some general matrix, because I think like some people did say like, oh, they don't know how to track. So a few things you can track. So for talent development retention, internal mobility rates. So if you are allowing some people when they leave, if they leave because it's not like they don't like the company, but they might want to try a different role. So if you're doing a retention program, you could also do a retention program for like internal mobility, right? How do they move within the organization if your company is big enough, right? And there's different kind of like roles. So for example, like accounting firm, you might have like advisory, you have tech advisory, you have the marketing team, you have a bunch of different teams, right? So I know these teams are generally also hiring. So, this could be a way that you are tracking instead of people leaving, they're just going to a different department or a different team within the organization, right? Second one is retention of high potential employees, pre-program, post-program retention, tracking, where they now, after program, where they're feeling, time to productivity. Again, setting what is your baseline of a new joiner, what they should be able to do, and seeing how fast they can ramp up there. Promotion rates as well. So if these are leaders or young leaders or high posts, how fast are they getting promoted? You have employee engagement scores, again, pulse checks, mentor-mentee satisfaction rates, participation rates. Also, if you're running multiple programs, for example, let's say you train 20, 30 mentors in your company, and let's say how many of these mentors want to come back and do the next batch? I think that one is quite that's quite important because that leads to your sustainability, someone's sustainability question, right? How do you sustain these programs? You sustain the programs in two ways. One, that your mentors like it and they come back and want to join again. Second, the program that you finish, these guys become mentors as well, right? Because I think with mentorship is quite cyclical, which means that, oh, I mentor you. Generally, if they like it, they'll come back as mentors. So I feel like, and when they come back as mentors, they don't need to be mentoring the same program. They can be mentoring the program below, right? So they could be mentoring your execs or your fresh grads that came in. So you can actually build like this different levels of mentors, but mentors can also be mentees depending on who is their mentor. Right? If that makes sense. Repeat participation as well. So for example, they join your new joiner program, management training program, they get promoted, they go like, oh, then they join, they see the program, they want to join as well. So again, are you developing people that want to be mentored or want to learn? Lastly, business and cultural outcomes. So attrition rate, again, succession planning. So you can also look at how many more potential successors you have, because maybe right now you have three, but going through these programs, you're realizing you're developing like 4, 5, 6 potential successors. Another thing you can look at as well is cross-functional collaboration. So I think there are a few companies that have been doing like cross-department mentorship as a retention tactic because, again, they're big enough. They have lots of roles. And generally, the people that leave is not, their feedback was they didn't leave because they didn't like the company. They left because they want to try something else. And I think you'll see that a lot with younger, like fresh grads, like people that work for 2, 3 years. Then they want to try something else. I think all of us have seen that, right? So for those kind of high posts, and some of them are very good, right? Like if you want to keep them internally, you have to give them opportunities to try things internally, lah. And then they can stay in, and then you can then nurture them up into leaders later. Last one is knowledge transfer. Again, how you can also do another test, like how many people know this information, right? And you can develop this with the mentor. So whatever mentors you get in, for example, let's say it's just the technical one, let's say it's like cybersecurity or whatnot. Like within cybersecurity, you have your SOPs or like how it works. So you can already tell the mentor like, hey, this program is to develop people that understands these systems. So at the end of the program, you'll be like, all right, out of 10 people I train, 6 more people understand these systems. Out of the 6 people, 3 of them are actually pretty good. So then this is like how much like who else knows this information? Like essentially, you can design it in a way that you can track whether the team in general knows more now than before. Yeah, so I mean, this is just general. Again, I do feel like it's hard for me to explain because you definitely need to customize it based on the program you're running. And that's where that we work with the L&D team and HR team to really fine tune specifically like what you are trying to do, right? Yeah, out of this program. Yeah, so I mean, again, as I mentioned, it's really hard to do all of this. So we've built our platform. So essentially, our platform allows you to create your own database of mentors, internal and external, with tags. This will allow HR and L&D to match employees to the right mentors, specifically for like leadership growth or retention. We also built our own smart matching engine. So we're introducing AI to help us well with matching. So you can match mentors and mentors based on goals, career stages, and skills. And again, as I mentioned, the important thing about mentorship is the matching, because let's say it's also the most painful part of matching, right? Because you need to go read through everyone's profile and then ask them. So being able to match quickly, and let's say the match doesn't work, but have a quick backup for the next match will save a lot of time and energy for the team to run. We also provide mentor-mentee training toolkits in the platform so that mentors can, they can learn how to be better mentors as they're using the system. Mentees also can learn how to be better mentees during the system. We also provide automated scheduling, so integrated booking system with reminders and tracking. And lastly, we also can generate reports. Right? So let me just quickly show you guys the platform and the reports so that you guys have an idea like how we track it. But if you guys have any questions at the time being, feel free to ask. Can you guys see this? It's a figma.com FutureLab page. Yeah, okay, great. So let me just quickly show you for the mentee point of view. So essentially, we collect some information about the mentee, male, female, birthday, country, working professional, what help do they need from the mentors, what department they're in. If they want to be mentored from a different department, they can let us know what skill sets they want to learn. And also because of Malaysia, we do ask whether they want to be mentored by men, male, female, or no preference as well. From there, our system would, once you have built up your own internal mentor database, the system will automatically recommend them a mentor based on their profile as well as the questions they filled up, as well as what the mentor said that they want to mentor. So within here, they're able to view their profile, understand about what they can help with. They can schedule the session through the system. And as I mentioned, the first session, generally, we want them to do a compatibility test. So let's say I get recommended Jessica, I'll jump into a call. So the system, we have a built-in video call. You can meet face-to-face as well. We jump into a call like this. We also built in AI transcription tool. So as you're talking, we realize that people don't like writing notes. So essentially, the system will transcribe your mentoring session as well as generate summaries and also what to do next automatically for both mentor and mentee. So it's a bit easier even for the senior leader to do it because they might be extra lazy to write things out. So once you close the sessions, we also have customized questions here. So again, based on how you design your program, we can customize this question to track every single session in terms of how they're progressing. And we also get them to follow up with the next session. And for them, they essentially get to view their progress. So every time they do a session, they'll get a summary card like this in terms of like what they talked about, what's to-do list, and any resources the mentor shared. I also wanted to show you guys this. So our system also tracks every single pair. So generally, if you're doing a large-scale program, it's really hectic to track everyone. So what we have done is we built a system to monitor which pairs are good, which pairs are in trouble. And these are the ones that you probably can check in on. And let's just say, looking at these guys, you can see all the sessions they've done, plus their feedback for every single session as well. And with all this information, we're able to generate a individual report on every single mentee and mentor. So for example, we have our AI system that analyze the session, so we can go through like the persons, how they've been developing, detailed growth analysis of how they've been improving communication confidence, evolving communication style, problem solving and mindset, goal progression and focus, key insights as well. We're able to track what they've demonstrated, proactive use of workflows, Jira, demand transparency, openness, mentorship, blah, blah, blah. We can also identify areas that can improve. Again, this is all based on the mentoring sessions they have shared, right? Because they do talk a lot, but how many of them actually write down what they're supposed to do and these things? So we also do help them identify areas they need to work on, how the behavior is changing, specific quotes as well, based to share like what they've said in terms of like how this person is breaking through his communication issues with his boss. And then we also have recommendations for mentees, what to practice on. We also have recommendations for the mentors in terms of like for the next session, what you talk about. And we also have recommendations for the program owner. So if it's the HR, then they know like, okay, what kind of modules you should be looking at. What other things they can do, like facilitate peer group sessions to sharing difficult clients and leadership relationships. So with that, we're able to generate these kind of reports. All right. Great. All right. So we got 9 minutes left. If you guys have any questions, feel free to type it in. But let's go into case studies. So these are a few case studies that we have collected over the years. In terms of like, we did spend a lot of time researching mentorship in Southeast Asia, so not just Malaysia. we've been looking at how other companies have been doing it as well. So this is one where a super app in Indonesia launched a mentoring program for the designers because the designers kept leaving. And I think a lot of tech companies, or a lot of maybe digital departments do find it hard to retain specific talents, right? Like telco, cybersecurity, even bank cybersecurity, or like designers, software engineers. They find it very tough to retain them. So for these guys, they did a pilot program for their design team, and what they did was that they, instead of just getting designers to mentor designers, they actually did cross department mentorship. So not just designers, the mentors were from the product team, from the research team, the strategy team, sustainability teams. So they asked the mentees like, hey, what else would you like to learn? Or like, what else are you curious about the company? Because they have super app, right? They do loads of stuff. So essentially they shared like what they wanted to do. Essentially went a 6-month pilot. And then they did a survey, 74% felt it's come to work. They felt that the sessions were quite effective, and they felt that because they were speaking to different departments, they were starting to build different relationships with different parts of the company as well, allowing them to really understand how the company works better rather than just design. Because I think for bigger companies as well, sometimes it feels very silo, right? Like you only are in this team, you only know these people, and you don't really have that opportunities to meet people outside this specific division. Maybe you have your inter-accounting games or your intercompany games, but that's not, I mean, that's not really, that useful in building professional working relationships. And I think what they found as well is that the mentors enjoyed it because they started learning what the design teams does as well as the participants get to know other people within the organization. So why was this awesome is that it was very cheap, right? It was a small pilot. So because they use their own internal people, they found it like really easy to do. And it showed improved retention as well as knowledge transfer within the organization. And the mentors that were used were managers and above. Again, they were able to allow these managers to work on leadership skill sets outside of their teams. Again, because when you're mentoring people within your team, it's not the same because you are their boss, right? Whereas if you're mentoring someone outside your team, it's a very different relationship because you're not their boss. They're from a different team altogether, right? But you're also getting to learn a lot about how they work. Second one uh, is that we do know, like sometimes when we do speak to companies as well, they go like, I don't know how to put in mentorship inside because everyone already has the annual talent strategy. They already know like what training providers they want, but they don't know like how do you put mentorship inside? Because is it its own thing? Is it outside of um yeah, how do you put it in, right? Because again, I, I think a lot of companies are still quite new in mentorship, and that's why we do this, just to educate more people on how to run it. So mentorship can be used as a reinforcement tool, right? So whatever training you provide, you are able to put mentorship as a way to make sure that the knowledge that is paid to train is being implemented within organizations. So for this company, for this bank in Singapore, so what they've done is that they actually have a strategy of education, exposure, and experience, where they started adding mentorship and job shadowing into the employee development plan. Again, it's a retention issue. What they found is that by doing this, they were able to fill up internal jobs with their own staff, or like with high posts, which meant that instead of losing people and having to replace them, they were essentially moving people from one department to other department, so that they already are onboarded, they already know how the company works. It's a lot faster time to onboard them into the specific department. But at the same time, you also know they're not really going to leave, right? Because they like the company. They were just looking for opportunities to try something else. And again, I think this comes down to younger people, like people that have been working 2, 3 years, 3 to 5 years, right? They still want to try. That's where I feel like these are the hypos. So these are where you feel like such a shame, right? These guys are good in HR to do something completely different. But in terms of the mindset of that person leaving, they will definitely feel more safe to move to the same, within the same company that they like, but just a different department, right? It's just a safer bet to do. So having this kind of cross-department mentorship really allows people to go like, hey, actually, this sounds like a really interesting job, an interesting space I want to grow into. How can I go there? And if the company allows you to do that, then the chances are that you're going to retain these talents for a long time, especially if they're good. Not everyone gets to do it, of course, but the good ones or your high posts, because you want them in the company, you should allow them to explore, right? When they implemented this program as well, they showed that 91% of employees reported psychological safety at work, which means that they were happy to share their thoughts, right? They felt like they weren't really getting judged when they shared their ideas in management meetings, mainly again because they are also being mentored by senior people within the organization. So mentorship also allows them to be comfortable with talking with leaders, right? Because if your mentor is like really high up and you can speak to them comfortably, you will feel very comfortable in terms of how you speak to everyone within the company as well. Again, why this is important, it shows how employee retention through internal mobility is a strategy. And also it helps you with higher employee engagement. So the next one is not retention. So just to conclude the retention part, I think the two ways of retention, right? One is that you're building relationship in the company so that they have a clear pathway to climb the ladder and they feel like they're invested in. And for the younger generation, that's what they want. The second thing of retention is that people might leave not necessarily because they don't like the company. They might leave because they want to try something else. And this is definitely something that a lot of the younger generation feel, right? They want to try something else. So being able to create cross-department programs, one allows you to create bigger programs because now it's not all in one department. Two, you can also it can help you be a bit more sustainable because again, it's different departments. So it's harder to kill that engine. Um, yeah, I remember the third point, but we'll move. Right. We got 1 minute left. Okay, last thing is mentorship as an engagement and leadership development tool. So this is one of the programs we ran with one of the accounting firms in Malaysia. So they wanted to engage their high posts through helping society. So they actually created a 3-month mentoring program for social enterprises where the managers, senior managers, and high posts were invited as mentors to mentor these social enterprises to help them with the business. Again, this is very tied to what they do anyways, because they might be from the advisory team or the different strategy teams. So they are quite good at helping businesses already as advisors. And what they found was that the mentees love it. I mean, a lot of these like social enterprises, they might not be so they might not know so much about actual businesses or like financial reporting, how to raise funds, because again, most of the time social enterprises come from a place where they just want to help, right? Not necessarily they can build good businesses. The second thing is that the mentors that did the program, most of them wanted to join. I think it's literally 2 people that didn't join again because I think they left the company. And what they found was that it was really a two-way thing because the mentors felt really good that they were using their skill sets outside of the company and they were helping people that were doing good. So they felt really good just helping these people. At the same time, the mentees really appreciated what they were doing, right? Because generally, when you work for these kind of like advisory companies, consulting firms, your clients are not that happy that you're helping them, right? They're your they're your boss essentially. Whereas for this, because this was more of like a social CSR kind of project, they found it really, really meaningful. So why is this powerful or why is this meaningful is that, again, it was be able to create a shared culture of growth, purpose, and leadership. Again, it's a very cost-effective way to engage, top performers. It was basically just a time that they had to do, right? And also us to help them arrange it, but generally it's still pretty cheap. All right. Last thing, again, why to summarize it again, right? Why mentorship works. Again, it's about building trust and a sense of belonging within the organization. It can help you accelerate a higher post within the company. with the cross department sharing, you can really break down a lot of silos. And generally, everyone else can learn a lot more about the organization by being able to speak to other people in different teams. That means that when you working on team projects or bigger projects, people have better empathy of what each team does. And lastly, it's cost effective because you're just using the same people within the company. So you're using your own company, your own employees to train your own employees, which is way cheaper than any trainer. Yeah, and with mentorship again, it's not new, right? It might be relatively new in like Southeast Asia, but it's really well studied in the US and Europe. Um, Again, mentored employees generally are 5 times more likely to get promoted. 69% of them are more likely to stay. And a lot of millennials, Gen Y, Gen Alpha, they really believe in mentorship, coaching, guidance. And I'm sure most of you guys know that as well, right? So if you want to retain those younger people, like these are the kind of programs um, that you could retain them. And you might ask me, hey, but it's so hard to get mentors. Actually, if you ask the millennials, because they care about it as well, they're more likely to join these programs. So you might not necessarily be able to get the seniors, but you can definitely get the millennials, which are probably around senior manager, director level now, maybe junior partners. They will help because they definitely understand the value of mentorship, right? And sooner or later, these guys will be the ones that are your senior leaders in the company. So if you find the right area to start with, the culture will grow within the organization. So I think that's essentially what you guys need to think about. Awesome. So yeah, if you want to work with us, happy to have a chat with you guys. We can help you design your program, map your impact, provide training. We have the platform to automate it. Again, and we also have mentors to support. I know it's time. So if you guys have any questions or happy to answer one or two of them. If you like to, if you like us to give you a consultation, you just scan the QR, and then we can once you fill it out, we can jump on the call and have a chat. But so far, everything okay? Was this useful? I hope I shared enough. Uh, so Celine, what would you advise if you were to develop a mentoring program but without a system or platform operating to specific the process? Um, Definitely possible, but I think it depends on how big the program is. As I mentioned, any program with less than 20 people, it's still manageable, 20 pairs. But once you start looking to like adding more than 20, 30, 40, 100 pairs, it becomes really, really tough. Uh, but advice-wise, like what you can do, you can speak to me later. We also have for smaller programs, you can also send them a mentor matching form. Um, the mentor matching form essentially is a questionnaire to help you identify who to match. If you want that, I can share that with you later. If you want to do a pilot with a smaller group, you probably can use that form for mentor and mentee, and then from there, you can do manual matching, which will be fine. No questions on mentoring front, not yet. But do you have a panel for ICF accredited coaches? Yes, we do. So we do also have access to coaches. We partner with one of the coaching academies here. So if you need coaches, we also have coaches in our system that can help. But yeah, coaching and mentoring is definitely which academy is the ICF with it was the first one like in Malaysia. I can't remember the guy's name. I think it's called ICE. I'll is the coaching. Wait, let me just quickly check here. Also, a lot of our mentors are coaches because generally people that are coaches, they also want to coach. They're corporatecoach.com. They're one of the Malaysian ones, one of the first coaching academies in Malaysia. Yeah, happy to share more about that later as well. Awesome. Thanks, guys. I hope that was useful. Yeah, Coach Mike. Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, so happy, if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me. Um, Happy to help. And I'm glad you guys are thinking about mentoring sessions. Awesome. I will also upload this onto YouTube. So if you guys want access to, I mean, if you guys want to share your team or like listening to certain parts or look at my slides, I will upload it. But I'll probably take it down in a week or two, just because, yeah, else people won't attend my webinars. But yeah, so I'll send it over to your emails, and feel free to like reply me if you guys need anything. Awesome. Thank you very much for joining. Have a great week ahead and happy Merdeka for Malaysians. All right. Thank you guys. See you.